going on, guys? This is Justin. Welcome back to Tea with iiiiiivvivii. And I have two, or I guess it's three, great guests on today. And I do know all of them from real estate. They're all realtors, which is kind of going to be fun in a way because, you guys are all in the same world. So probably you guys can be taking a lot from each other as you're hearing each other's each other's questions and the answers to those questions. And obviously real estate is what I'm from, which is how I know you guys. So it's fun to be able to talk with realtors because that was kind of, sales, real estate is my expertise before this, or what my skill set was at least. So yeah, so we can just start by you guys introducing each other, or not each other, introducing yourselves and your name, what you do, which I sort of already spoiled it because you do real estate. And maybe any little tiny background you want to give, the quick version. And then I'll kind of explain how this is going to go for the people that are listening, and we can get into it and make as much progress as we can in the time we have. So Clayton, you're at the top of our rectangle, so I always like to
First,
go in that kind of order. So if you want to get us started.
hey, thanks for having me today, first and foremost.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, my name is Clayton. I'm a real estate agent, like you mentioned, with Remax in Palm Harbor, Tampa Bay area. Let's see, before that, I was in project management and construction, and I actually got burned out in that profession and, decided to change careers a little bit later in life than most people do, but I'm very happy that I made that change. And a lot of the positive mindset stuff and forward thinking stuff that Justin preaches helped me get through all that and put me in a really good headspace. And that's what attracted me to Justin and actually everything he's been doing over the last couple of years. I've been following him and his progress, but we have similar paths and have a lot in common in that respect. So I'm happy to be here today.
Awesome. Awesome. Great introduction. And I was in new home sales. So,
Oh
we were
yeah.
kind of in a similar world in some ways. Obviously, I deal with a lot of project managers and the construction managers and the permit people and the land people and all those things. So I'm definitely familiar with that world, obviously. Cool. All
That
right.
world doesn't stop in Orlando. That's
No,
probably
it
part of the
doesn't.
reason why I jumped to a different
It
career.
definitely doesn't stop. Yeah. Real estate doesn't stop either. They're both tough. What I'm doing doesn't stop. What all of us are doing are tough. All right. Yeah, Jeffrey and Yolanda, good to see you guys again. If you want to introduce yourself quickly, and then we can get started.
Well, I'm Jeffrey, and this is my wife, Yolanda. We are partners in real estate. We've been in real estate about 4 years. We're now with eXp Realty. We work in the Central Florida area predominantly, but we're licensed for all of Florida. We're also pastors of a church. We founded a church down here, and that's what brought us to Central Florida.
Yes, and we really enjoy helping people. That's what our goal is in life, is to help people. And we real estate is a big thing. That might be one of the biggest purchases people make in their lifetime. And we've seen some shady stuff before we became realtors, and that kind of pushed me into wanting to do this business because I like to treat people with respect and help them make sure they know what they're signing and getting themselves into, and not just trying to make a quick dollar. I like what Clayton had said earlier before we started. It's not all about the money, so we like to help people and do what we can to help them, find the home that they're looking for. And so we've been serving people for many years.
Many years.
We've been in the ministry now 26 years.
Wow.
Pastors, and for me, pretty much all of my life. So it's great to be here this morning.
Awesome. Awesome. And I think I knew that you guys were pastors, although maybe it was like when you said it, I was like, oh, that's interesting. But I think I knew that. But that I think you guys are very joyful people, and I think that's something that I've always gotten from you guys and from your posts. You always kind of bring that joyfulness, I think, to the things that you do. And, I'm sure that's a testament to, God and you guys. And so that's awesome. That would make sense that you guys have the pastor element. So that's good. That's good. Cool. So why don't we start with Clayton? And let's see. So it's 9:10 right now. So we've got about 15 minutes. So we've got about maybe 25 minutes a person. We could hop back and forth or do one at a time. Of what I've found, it's kind of cool to be able to do the one at a time because we can kind of go a little bit deeper and be a little more productive that way. But Jeffrey and Yolanda, while Clayton's asking his questions, I mean, you guys are all in real estate. So it will still be interesting, productive time. If you guys want to take notes, really, really my goal is that you guys walk out of here today with specific things of like, okay, I can use this and go do this and things can be better like now. So that's really the goal. Obviously we're all in commission, right? 100% commission. So the only thing that matters is results. And that's what we want to try to bring to today to actually have some tangible results. And so for the people that are listening, really briefly, I say that I help people with performance, happiness, and fulfillment. When we're stuck, all areas of our life tend to suffer, and we all have different varying degrees of being stuck or having positive or negative momentum. But when we start to look at these certain places that we get stuck and we start to change those, then everything changes, right? And so the people that I help, they see pretty significant returns on both the business and personal life side, and all the areas of the life improve. My favorite definition of success is from Earl Nightingale, where he says, success is the pursuit of a worthy ideal. So if we know what we want and we're moving towards that, then we're successful. And he estimates that by that definition, there's about 5% of the population that's successful, meaning not so many people. And it sounds so simple, maybe even oversimplistic, but it's surprisingly hard to do, right? It's surprisingly hard to really, really know what that is for you and really go towards it. And there's so many reasons why that's actually kind of difficult. So that's what I help with, helping people to figure out what that is for them, business and personal, and to be moving towards it as quickly and effectively as possible at all times. And that ends up, having a significant return on the performance side, but also happiness and fulfillment side. And I really think at the end of the day, what we really want is fulfillment, right? We say we want all these things, but I think we want those things because we want fulfillment. And I think by fulfillment, I mean, learning to show up in the world completely congruent with ourselves, with who we actually are, living how we actually want to live. And again, that sounds pretty simple too, but also not so easy. I think that's kind of a lifetime journey to do. So yeah, Clayton, if you want to get us started, and we probably have about 22 to 24 or 5 minutes, and we can make as much progress as we can.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so places you're getting stuck, could be business side, could be personal. Oh, that's weird. Sorry about that. Wherever you want to take things. I know you watched one of the shows on YouTube, so you got a pretty good idea of the flow of everything, which is great.
Yeah, and I've been following your content for a couple of years now. I enjoy it. But first off, I'm a coffee guy, so
okay.
I know this is a show about tea, but I'm all about the espresso.
Oh man, I don't know if we can continue this. I don't know how I feel about you violating.
I just want to say, I mean, there's all caffeine there, but
yeah, you just want to be transparent, just like Jeffrey and Yolanda with their customers and the contracts.
No, I think this is a cool show, and I like that you made me kind of dig in and see where I was being stuck, because I think some of those things get shoved underneath the pillowcase, or like maybe we forget about them, because I consider myself to be a positive person. I do set a lot of goals. I try my best to accomplish those goals, but this was a good, I guess, a little bit of homework to do, right? Once you start digging in, you're like, oh man, I guess I haven't finished that, or I guess I have been kicking that around for 6 months or whatever. So yeah. I actually enjoyed compiling the list, and it was also a little bit of a exercise, I guess we could say. So I'll run through my list then.
Yeah, sure.
Being a workaholic, and enjoying what I do, but definitely workaholic, I found that my personal fitness seems to suffer. I'll do it a couple days here and there, and then maybe for a week, and then I'll fall off, and then I'll be like, oh, I gotta get that gym membership going again, and then I'll be the best gym guy for 3-4 days, and then I'll fall off again, and then like oh man, I'm gonna get that new bike because it's gonna make me ride longer, and then you know where I'm going with that.
Yeah,
So
I do. I
that's
do.
something that I commit a little bit more. I could commit a little bit more to, and it does help my mindset, and it's interesting when you can get away from technology and taking phone calls. Some of those bigger picture items do come together, or some of your best ideas come together. So, but I know I need to work on that more, and that is one of my goals for this year in general and moving forward. But I could always do better at it. Another one is, man, I'm not great at cold calling and like calling my leads back. I'll do it some, and I am always on the phone, but the harder phone calls and the cold calling and stuff, I feel like I neglect that a lot more than I should. And I always revisit that with mentors and, you know, real estate books and all that stuff. But that's something I could most definitely improve on. It's a blind spot for me. Let's see another one. Oh, this one you'll like, Justin.
I
I
like
am
both of these so far. So
I am the best read a half of a book guy you've ever met. Like I've read a half of this one, and I've read 30% of this one.
Nice.
Man, I don't know what it is, but I don't seem to finish them. Like I
Yeah,
got 5 books stacked up, and I
yeah,
read half of them. So that came to me this morning driving in here to the office because I have a 2-year-old at home, so there's no way I could do a Zoom call here. She'd be climbing all over my chair and
yeah. No.
talking to you guys. So on the way to the office, I'm like, man, I got 5 books that I'm 40%, 50% through. So I'm going to bring it up on the show. Why?
Yeah,
I can't tell you, but maybe I'll lose interest. I'm not sure.
yeah.
But
Here,
that'd be something I'd like to tighten up a little bit and close out those books and get 5 more going, So
yeah. Why don't we just go question by question, and if I answer all those, then we can have time for more.
yeah.
So the working out one. So great question. The first thing where I always start with people, I don't know, did you get a chance to look at the website?
I didn't.
That's
No,
okay.
I'm always on your social media stuff. I see the Instagram and the Facebook stuff, but I didn't.
Yeah. No, that's okay. So the working out, and it's a good question. So, the first thing
Consistently, I guess
what's that?
consistently is the key.
Yeah, consistently. So, there's like a couple different things in my head. Um, when I first start helping people, the first thing I always look at with them is their state. And actually this can be sort of part of the answer to the cold calling too. Um, your state is like your level of focus and energy and vibrancy you're showing up in the world with day to day and moment to moment. And it has a massive impact on our results, especially for anybody who's performance oriented, which realtors are big time, right? I mean, every time you perform, that's a giant check. Every time you don't, it's a giant check left on the table. So real estate is extremely performance oriented with, very high reward when you do it, and it sucks when you don't, right? So I had these basics that I tell people, and these might be some good things to write down, actually, if you guys have pen and paper. But the first thing that I do, like I basically ask people to rate themselves on a scale of 1 to 10 of their state when I start. And then the first place I look are these certain basic things that massively impact their state. So usually if somebody's state is not a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10, there's these certain things that are needing some attention that they could probably be doing better at. And I call them like the basics. These are things that all successful people are doing. The first 3 are the most obvious ones: eating, sleeping, and working out. All high performing people, they do those things. And the reason is well, I'll list the other ones real quick and then I'll go back. But the basic things are eating, sleeping, working out, and then clean home, clean car, and then grooming and self-presentation, and then body language. So these are things that I made up, but these things have massive impact on our state. So eating, sleeping, working out, those are the most obvious. So all successful people are doing this stuff. And I remember when I first started studying this stuff, I think it was like 4 years ago, and there was certain things that I was noticing that all the successful people were doing, and working out was one of them. And I think working out, a lot of times we think that, we don't have time or whatever. But when the most successful, busy people in the world have time, like way more busy than us, and they're having time, then obviously it's not a time thing, right? Because we've got more time than they do. And I think what it really is, and I think this is true for anything in life, is that we're not understanding the price we pay if we don't. So human beings were very, very motivated by cost and dissatisfaction, much more than future benefit. So, once I think that it's been said before that if you could put all the benefits of working out into a pill and you could sell that pill, that it would basically be like the most effective, like most expensive, valuable pill that anyone has ever sold because of all the benefits it has. So to answer your question, you know, for us to really perform at the level we want, create the life we want, we really need to learn to manage our state at a 10, meaning showing up in the world in that peak state, bringing all of ourselves to what we're doing, executing fully in the moment. And I would say it's nearly impossible, perhaps impossible, to consistently do that without working out. And so our results in life are always going to be in direct proportion to our state. So if on a scale of 1 to 10, you're rating yourself like a 6, your results are going to be highly, highly correlated to a 6, and working out is a huge limiting thing between the 6 and the 10. And so to answer your question, a couple things, I think the biggest thing is to understand, the price you're paying to not do that. So if your average check is 7 or 8 grand or whatever it is or more, depending on the price point you're in, right? When you're lead generating and when you're going into appointments or when you're keeping your backlog together or whatever it is that you're doing, it's always performance based, right? So let's say you go into a listing appointment and your state is a 7 instead of a 10, you just left an $8,000 check on the table. And you keep doing that throughout the year, and it adds up to a lot of freaking money. Not to mention, this is true in your personal life too, the way you show up for your wife, the way you show up for your daughter, the way you show up with your friends, the way you show up with other people in your office, the way you show up with your backlog, keeping it together. The difference between whatever number state you're at and a 10 is gigantic. And working out is an enormous part of you being there. So understanding it's basically one of those things where you have to look at it like, if I don't work out, I'm guaranteed to fail. It's just one of those things. It's what I call a high ROI activity, meaning your return on investment for that hour a day is so gigantic, business and personal, that it literally makes 0 sense to not do it. It's like, let's say you're advertising on Zillow and you've got a great return. Let's say for every dollar you're putting in, you're getting like 10x or 15x or 20x, whatever you're getting, right? It just literally would make no sense to not continue to put money towards Zillow if that's your return, right?
Yeah.
So working out is the same way, where it's so valuable and the price we pay for not doing it is so enormous that it's too costly to not do it. It's too costly to our business. It's too costly to our personal life. So if you look at it like, I'm guaranteed to fail if I don't do this, you will get yourself to do it. A thing that I do is I have like a little workout journal book thingy, and I do this for the entire year, where every single day I write down what I did working out that day. I work out how many days I've worked out for the year divided by the number of days in the year. And I write down my weight and I track all this stuff, and I have goals. So for this year, I have a goal to work out at least 5 times a week, and to work out or dance combined at least 6 times a week. And I track all that stuff, and I calculate like how I'm doing, and I can see how I'm doing. So part of it is understanding the price you pay if you don't. I think part of it is tracking stuff. Now, let's say if you're like, hey, Justin, you might be like, what should I do right this second? Right. So let's say if you're working out 1 time a week or 0 times a week. I always tell my people to do something that's a little incremental gain that doesn't freak you out too much, that could get you some momentum. Because life is a momentum game, right? When we don't have it, we just want to build a little bit so we can build more. When we do have some, that's great. It's the best time to build more, and we build more. So let's say if you're working out 0 times a week, or you don't have a gym membership, maybe your goal for this week is to get a gym membership and get to the gym for 20 minutes, work out for 20 minutes. And then that's your week. And you do something, you're like, I could definitely handle that. Something so small, you're like, I can do that. And then maybe next week it's to go 2 times for 20 minutes, and you start to build that momentum, and all of a sudden it's not so scary. So the answer, I don't know if that's too much long-winded answer, but this is a really important question, is understanding the price you pay if you don't, and understanding the benefits if you do, but more so what you leave on the table if you don't. And then incrementally doing something you can handle that's a little bit past where you are to build a little momentum so that you can build more. So that's the answer to that question. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, man, great answers.
Thank you.
I like
Thank you.
it.
With the lead generation, and these are guys, these are great ones for you too, obviously, right? So,
I tried
one,
to be honest. I wanted to be honest what was holding me back, right? So
yeah, no, no, that's good. I mean, that's what this is for. And, the more honest we all are here, the more valuable it's going to be, because really the goal of this is that you guys walk away with really helpful stuff. So being honest is good. First of all, I mean, you guys know this, like most realtors would rather die than lead generate, right? And which is the reason most of them do die, because they don't lead generate. Lead generation is very scary for most realtors and most people of any profession. Um, and it's kind of uncomfortable, and it's kind of like the last thing they want to do, and that creates problems, right? Um, the good news that I always say about real estate is that you sort of do know what you should be doing. It's getting yourself to do it that's hard, right? Real estate isn't like rocket science, but it involves doing a lot of uncomfortable things consistently. And that's tough, right? Most people don't want to do any of those things, which is why not everybody makes money, right? So there's a couple pieces to answer your question. There's basically four main areas I help people with, and I'll explain. These are sort of the answers to the lead generation question. State, super freaking important. Let's say that you've got, your stack of expireds, which in this market there's maybe not a lot of expireds, but or you're for sale by owners, which there's probably more of.
yeah,
Or you could be doing open houses, or you could be door knocking, or whatever lead generation stuff you could be doing, right? If your state is not a 10, it is going to be really fucking difficult to lead generate, because it's just too scary. Like there's a certain amount of energy that you need to come at that activity with, to be able to pull it off and make it happen. So,
yeah,
if you're about to go door knocking and your state is a 5, too scary. You can't do it. If you want to call these for sale by owners and your state is a 7, too scary. You can't do it. So you have to learn to manage your state in a way where you actually have the energy to do that thing. And the more difficult the thing is that you're trying to do, the more important that is. And so for real estate, for all the uncomfortable things that you guys have to be doing, state management, extremely, extremely important. So the first answer, you have to show up like that. If you don't, it's going to be very hard.
yeah,
Um, the next, really, I guess the two biggest reasons, there's like four categories I help with, and two of them are especially tricky with the lead generation. One is the state. The other reason I think most realtors don't lead generate is they have not so good stories. So everybody calls this something different, right? Your story, your beliefs, your mindset, your paradigm, your philosophy, right? All kind of the same idea, which is that we all have certain beliefs about ourselves and the way the world works, and we always follow through on that stuff. Kind of like a train on a train track. So if a train is going on track A in direction A, the odds of it just jumping off the track and going direction B is pretty low, because that's not how trains work, right? They can't really do that. And human beings were like that too. And so most realtors and most salespeople have very, very bad stories. So to give you an example of what I mean, they have stories about themselves, right? Which is, oh, I'm really not the person that does this. This just isn't me. I don't like this. This is uncomfortable. I'm not about this, whatever, right? There's those stories taking them this way, or let's
yeah,
say taking them this way. There's stories about sales itself and the prospecting, the lead generation, what they're doing. So those stories are bad too. And their stories are, oh, this is so sleazy and salesy and manipulative and annoying, and like really not cool what I'm doing. And oh, this is just like people hate this, and I wouldn't want someone to do this to me, right? And so you've got those stories taking you that way. And then you've got the stories about the prospect themselves. And so those stories are usually bad too, which is that, oh my gosh, they're really not going to want me to be calling them. And, they're going to be so offended, and they're going to rip my head off. And, there's probably going to be so many people that's called them already. And, they're going to be so annoyed that now I'm calling them. And plus they're already exhausted, so it's like we've got all these bad stories taking us this way. So the odds that we
true.
just go this way are very low, really fucking low. And so those are two big reasons. And so some of the secrets or keys to fixing the lead generation stuff is learning to manage your state out of 10, working out be a great piece of that, of a place to start chipping away at that. And then starting to think of your stories. So, when you leave here today, you can think about like, okay, well, what are my stories when it comes to lead generation about myself and about what I'm doing and about the prospect? And then what stories would I need to have my train track going this way? So for
Mhm.
example, and these are some things you can maybe write down, but if you said, if your stories were about yourself, that I'm excellent at this and I'm the type of person that does this, and I'm a really high level realtor and I provide an excellent service, and this is part of me providing service, and this is who I am and this is what I do, that's a totally different story, right? That would get a different action. If your stories about
Yeah.
what you are doing, lead generation, is that this is really honorable and I am actually one of the few realtors that does this, and that there's, a certain small percentage of people out there that, are really going to appreciate this, and I'm doing this for them, and I'm looking for people that have a problem that I'm providing a solution for, and there's going to be people out there that I can really help, right? That's a totally different story. And
Yeah.
then if your stories about the prospect are that, you know, there's gonna be ones out there that it's not a fit, and I'll keep moving, and there's gonna be ones out there that really appreciate that I called, and those are the ones that I'm reaching out for. And there's somebody out there that needs my help, and they're gonna be really glad that I called. And they're looking for someone like me, and I'm looking for someone like them, and I'm gonna find them, and whatever. And so all of a sudden, totally different stories, right? So if your
Mhm.
state is like a 5 and your stories are taking you that way, lead generation is so difficult that it's going to be hard, right? It's going to be almost impossible. So
Yeah.
so those are some of the big keys. Learning to manage your state, which working out is a great place to start. Obviously, these are all things I spend lots of time on, but being cognizant of where is your state at and really where it needs to be to do that activity, that you kind of bring yourself back to the center to really show up like you need to. And then thinking about your stories. What are you believing about yourself and lead generation in the prospect, and what would you need to believe in each of those categories to do that? Those are the big things that stop us from doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always find that coming from a place where you do want to help your clients or your sphere, or people you're coming in contact with, that's always a much better start. And it is authentic too. People pick up on that too. So
Yeah. And
yeah.
it's, I kind of look at the lead generation like, and I would sometimes draw these little pictures where, because I'm taking notes of who I'm calling, and I would imagine like a little like stick figure, and he's like mining for gold, and I would draw like this line deep into it, like you don't know where the gold is, but you're looking for it. And I would put like 10 calls, 20 calls, 30 calls, and like all the way down to like 100 calls, and there's like something good in there somewhere. And you're sort of just digging around looking, you
Yeah.
know. You don't really know where it's going to come. But that's part of the game. I think part of the game is expectations. If you expect to make 5 calls and get a listing, and if you don't, you're a failure, you're going to very likely be disappointed, right? But if your expectations are, if I'm reaching out to 100 people a day, somewhere in there throughout the course of the week, there's a pretty good odds that I might get something good. It's a different expectation, so you're sort of going about the process differently. You know.
Mhm.
And then as far as the books, I think one of the things that I learned early on also is that, these super successful people were reading, and they were reading about an average of 50 books a year. And so I committed to read 50 books a year. And maybe you guys saw my post. I was really proud of. I've read 200 books now in the past 4 years. Some of them were rereading and
Awesome.
studying. Um, but it's another high ROI activity. It's part of the success formula. It's something you need. So, how do you get yourself to read? By understanding the price you pay if you don't read. If your life is here and you want it to be here, and you actually want what you say you want, then there's certain things you're going to have to be doing to get up there. And one of those things is reading. I mean, I think it's been said that books are like the most highly condensed form of knowledge. It's like there's such a massive amount of information synthesized to some specific thing that you're trying to figure out. And it's put together by, if you're reading good books, the best people in the world on that topic. So
Mhm.
yes, mindset is important, but strategy and understanding how to do something is important, right? So how do we get good at sales? Study sales. How do we get good at human behavior? Study it. How do we get good at persuasion? Study it. How do we get good at anything? Get every single book on the topic and study all of it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff out there. When I first started sales, at the real estate level, which is a high ticket level, I wasn't very good at it at first. I was good at sales of smaller ticket items I had done, but not of houses at first. And, people would always tell me like, "Oh yeah, I'm definitely, interested. We're definitely going to come back and sign the contract," and they wouldn't do it. And I was so confused about it. And I ultimately was like, I need to study this. Like, I need to get better. I started reading all these books on body language, reading all these books on sales and persuasion. I stopped listening to what the customer was saying. I started watching their body and how they were moving. And I started dictating everything I did off how they were moving, because body language is very hard to edit. And basically, the moral of the story, what I'm saying is I studied it. I read a bunch of books on it, and I
Mhm.
figured out how it worked, and I got better. So mindset is important, but reading is important because we need to learn how things work. If we want to do them at a high level. Does that make sense, or is that helpful?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, you hit some really good points, and then it all makes perfect sense, actually.
Yeah. So, and I know this stuff is easier said than done. But the takeaways, I would say working out, understanding the price you pay if you don't, understanding it's a high ROI activity, right? 80-20 rule, more like 90-10. 90% of our results come from 10% of our efforts. Your working out is a 10% activity. It
Yeah.
has to happen. It's not like you'll get to it if everything else gets done. It's like that gets done and then everything else goes around that, because it's a 10% activity. 10% activities, high ROI activities, they're things that have to happen. They're non-negotiable. If we want what we say, it has to happen, because
Yeah.
we're not going to get what we want if we don't. The lead generation, thinking about your state, thinking of like, how am I really showing up in these moments? Am I really showing up with everything, executing with all of myself? Because that's what it's going to take to lead generate. Thinking about your stories. What am I really believing about myself and lead generation and the prospects that has me stuck? And what would I need to be believing? What would be some better stories that would allow me to do that, right? And we had some examples of the better stories. And then the reading, high ROI activity also. Understanding that the more we want something really exciting from life,
Yeah.
the more we're going to need to be doing these certain things to help to get us there. And I think reading is another one of those high ROI things. 50 books in a year is a lot. That means that's a lot of time for people who their time is really valuable, right? Like these multimillionaires, billionaires, they're spending a lot of their time reading. So you kind of have, if Warren Buffett spends like 8 hours a day reading or whatever it is,
Yeah.
there must be something to that, right? I mean, we've got time. It's not that we don't have time. And final thought for that, and Jeffrey and Yolanda, we're gonna hop over to you guys. Sorry if I've taken a long time, but pick books that really excite you. If you really want to master sales, persuasion, human behavior, get books on that. If you're really interested in branding, marketing, find all the best books on that. Whatever excites you, find all the best books on it, and know that your time is well spent by doing that.
All right, that's some good information.
All right, Jeffrey and Yolanda, cool.
It's funny you were mentioning about books. My husband actually is in the process of writing a book, so I'll let him take it from there.
Yeah,
Awesome.
but
Congratulations.
I find myself getting sidetracked where I don't spend the appropriate time consistently with the book, trying to write the book. It's been months. And then I get writer's block because being a pastor and delivering sermons, I have information and I'm reading constantly, like biblical study stuff. I'm reading the Bible, of course. And so I'm getting inundated with a lot of information. And I'm not a great multitasker, if I could say it that way. I'm highly positive. I'm ex-military. I'm retired Navy. The stuff that you were saying, boy, do I know that stuff, to the point where I drive people crazy, because that's how you achieve. the working out, the state of being, like your whole self. I'm talking about you have to be positive. That positivity, people can feel it. I mean, even on the phone when you talk, like I had a client and I've noticed my state has dipped. It's not where it used to be because that military life, we had to be here. It was life or death. You had to work out. You had to do all of that stuff. But since I've been retired, I've been trying to transition into civilian life, and it's clumsy. It's ugly because I'm still more militant than I am a civilian, just to be honest. I think if you do something for so long, it becomes a part of you. But the book, to get back to the book,
No problem.
so I'm trying to find ways to set aside time where I can just be with the writing, just the write. And so what's funny, I'm a perfectionist too. So I've written so many pages of the book, and then I reread what I wrote and tear it apart and make it better and make it smoother. And so, it's like rework. I keep rebuilding it or rewriting it over and over. So I've had ideas. I'm a minimalist when it comes to taking a lot of material, like a large amount of stuff. I like to condense it because I do outlines. For when I preach off of outlines. So I take maybe it could be a whole chapter of the Bible and I condense it, or a life of a biblical character and I condense it. So for me, it's been a challenge to try to get length out of the book. So I've been telling my wife, I said, once this book is done, it might be a pamphlet. It might be a small book. Like, it's not a lot of pages to it, but it'll be impactful. That's what I want. I want it to be impactful. I want people to be able to have a takeaway. I want people to have aha moments where it's life-changing and they can be better. They can be their better self.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it makes sense. So is the question like, how do I get myself to more consistently write?
Yes.
Okay. Are you guys familiar with Seth Godin? Do you know who he is?
No.
He's a pretty famous marketing guy. Not pretty famous. I mean, he's probably one of the most famous kind of marketing names. There's a number of books. He's written a ton of books. I don't know if you've ever heard of some of these, but like This Is Marketing, Purple Cow, The Practice, Tribes. So anyway, something that he says, which I think is sort of the answer to this, is he says, show me your bad writing. Because when people is just like, oh, I just don't have good writing, he's like, show me your bad writing. Meaning that, and it's his, honestly, I want you to write down this book. This book would be perfect for you. It's called The Practice by Seth Godin. So The Practice. So he doesn't, he talks about how you don't just write because you feel like it. You write because it's another day and it's time to write. It's like the practice of doing something, of putting out work, of shipping work, that, successful people or people that impact the world ship their work. The perfectionist thing and the writing thing, I think honestly it's a little bit of a similar question to like, why don't we post more on social media? And I think, and it goes to the perfectionism thing too. And I think the answer is that we put too much emphasis on any one piece of content. And for you, when you're writing, you're probably putting too much emphasis on that writing. Like you're sitting, I mean, this is just a guess, of course, but you're probably sitting down, you're like, man, this has got to be good. This has got to be like really good what I'm about to write, and then you're like staring at the page and you're like, start to type something, you're like, no, that's not good enough. And I think that, I mean, I haven't written a book before, even though it's a desire that I have. I'd really like to write books. I'm kind of trying to build maybe bigger audience before I write books so that there's people to sell those books to. But I think it's just shipping the work, just doing it, not needing it to be so perfect. Plus it's never going to be perfect for one. You've got to send it out and publish it at some point for two. I think I saw Clayton's quote where he said chop wood, carry water, that he sent. That's something, yeah, that Seth Godin says from The Practice. I don't know, Clayton, if you've read The Practice. But I think you're putting too much emphasis on what you're about to write, and it's got you stuck. I would just crank it out, crank it out, crank it out, crank it out. You can always go back, you can always edit, but you've got to have stuff to edit, and at some point you've got to have something to send out. Seth Godin also talks about creating a deadline, right? So, however far along in the book you are, maybe having a deadline to have it published by, I don't know, like 6 months from now, or 7 or 8 months from now, or whatever is a realistic deadline. So, if it was 8 months from now, today's August 16th. So September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. So maybe you have a deadline that I publish my book by April 1st, 2023. Sometimes it's a clarity thing. Sometimes if we're not clear enough on when we want it done by, it can sort of just go on forever. But if you have like a specific time, then your mind sort of has to start to figure out, like, okay, how would I do that by that time? And then you start to have to take different actions versus the amount of action you'd have to take if there is no deadline. So I think setting a specific deadline, like a specific day of the year of this is going to be published, or this is published by this day, and then not putting too much emphasis on any one thing you write. For me with the social media posts, not that I'm the epitome of it, but I don't really overanalyze myself too much. The way that I see it, and this will be helpful, I think, for the book too, is that I don't see it as, oh, this one post is going to blow up and I'm going to be famous, although there's always some part of us that thinks that or would like that to happen. But I more think of it like, in the next 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 posts that I do, maybe I'll blow up and my accounts will be really big. So it really takes the pressure off of that. So if you've got a day of like, this book is published by April 1st, 2023, and then you're just like, I'm going to crank out some writing every day. I'm going to track how many days per week am I really writing, and how many hours a day am I really writing, and how much stuff am I really putting out. And you can track it to see what you're actually doing, and just start cranking stuff out. Like Seth Godin says, show me your bad writing, show me that you're doing something. And then you're putting it all together, and you'll eventually ship your work. And, maybe there's never a time where you'll feel that it's fully done, but, we write because we want to impact the world. And if you want to impact the world, it has to be shipped at some point. So those are some things I would say. Having a specific deadline, you could use April 1st, 2023, or you could use a different one. And tracking how often you're writing, and really not needing to write something so perfect, but just writing to write because you have stuff to say and you're trying to articulate, and eventually you will bring it all together the best you can, and eventually you will have something that you're proud of that's not perfect, but you'll ship it, and then you'll start writing another book that's also not perfect, but that you'll continue to try to be better at impacting the world with.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds helpful. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said you probably trying to write something, you putting a huge emphasis on whatever you're putting down, because it takes me a while just to get going, because I put something and go, delete.
Yeah.
So
and the perfectionism thing, like, I think we all like to call ourselves perfectionists, and it's weird because it's almost like a badge of honor, right? It's like, well, I'm a perfectionist. Like, I do things at a good level, I'm not about the low quality work. And it's like, that's good. But, if we're really, really honest with ourselves, even though it's a very uncomfortable thing to hear, and, uncomfortable for me too, right? For myself, perfectionism is really an insecurity thing. It's really saying that, I'm scared to put something out because it might not be good enough. I'm scared to do something, so it might not be good enough. So we prepare, and we get like the analysis paralysis, and we prepare forever, and we just never really do anything. And I've definitely been very guilty of that at times in my life. And probably there's still times where I'm doing that right now to some extent also. So that's a very easy thing to fall into, because we can kind of hide behind our perfectionism, or hide behind our preparation, or hide behind our, standard of excellence.
Yeah.
But it really takes a lot of courage to actually do things, to actually take action and put ourselves out there. And it's easier said than done, but that's the only way that anything ever really happens in life, is when we put ourselves out there and when we do things. And even though perfectionism, we might think that it feels good because we're just trying to be so excellent, in a lot of ways it really doesn't feel good, because we know in our heart that we're not really taking action. We're just kind of like hiding over here, and I think hiding is one of the worst feelings in life. We hate the feeling of hiding, that there's these things we really want to be doing that we're just not really doing the way we wish we were. And it's a terrible feeling. And I think we all have that feeling. And I think one of the best feelings in the world is knowing that we are going for those things. So for you with the book, that's one of those things that if you really write without needing for it to be perfect, and you really crank it out, and you really have a deadline, and you really do ship it by that deadline, you'll feel good about yourself. You will.
Thanks. Yeah. Awesome.
Well, for me, one of the things, as I was listening to everything that was said, I thought about, for me, moving forward and not being stuck in the past. Example, with real estate, far as things changing. I'm learning in real estate, things change all the time.
And in life things
yes.
change all the time.
Yeah, and when the coronavirus and all of that stuff happened, and now we're, moving past that, things have really changed. It's not the same as when we used to just go out and do the open houses, and when you can just walk up on a community of new construction and take your client in there. Now it's more, you have to have an appointment for the client because they don't have as many agents sitting on that property. So a lot of things in real estate, I'm trying to learn how to change and not get stuck in the past, saying, well, see, we used to do open houses this way and we used to do this, but to be able to move forward as the industry is changing, as life is changing, because like you said, that happens even in life. Things change. You don't stay the same. So that's my question, how to move forward and not get stuck in the past.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think sort of similar to Clayton, understanding the price you pay if you don't. So if something used to work and it doesn't work anymore, but you want to keep doing it, that's a risky way to go about things, right? Let's say, I don't know, you used to be running a certain type of advertisement on Facebook, right? Facebook had a lot of retargeting changes and iOS updates and all these things. If you had a certain ad that was making you a bunch of money, and then it wasn't making money anymore, what you were doing, have to change, right? So, but we're always needing to change. We're always needing to be adaptable, and always needing to think of ways to be better and better get to our outcomes. I think that clarity is something that helps with this. So for example, if you have a specific goal, let's say you guys, for the year want to make 150,000 or 200,000 or whatever you want to make, and let's say that goal is here and you're here, right? And let's say you used to do certain stuff, but it's not working now. And there's this gap between where you are and where you want to be. Whenever there's a gap between where we are and where we want to be, which there always is, there's dissatisfaction there, right? Like we want to be up there, but we're not. And that space between there and there, it's like a dissatisfaction, like, oh man, I want to get up there. So the more you have a really exact specific way that you want your life to be going, and the more you sort of have to track what you're doing, right? Sometimes we don't even track what we're doing, so we don't know if what we're doing is working or not working, right? So I think the first step is to even have that awareness of what are you doing and what's working and what's not working. And then understanding, make sure you're being clear on how you do want your life to be going. And then asking like, okay, well, yeah, I wish things were still going this way, but if I continue them this way, am I going to get here or am I not? And if the answer is not, then you have to think about, okay, well, what do I need to pivot? What are the things that are not working anymore? And what are the things that are working? Maybe doubling down on some of the things you're doing that are working. Like maybe you used to be doing a lot of open houses, and maybe for some reason that's not possible anymore, but maybe you're, doing some Google ads or buying Zillow ads, or maybe you're going to the for sale by owners and converting them, or maybe there's some other stuff that you guys are doing that is working, and you want to make sure that you're maximizing the stuff that is working, So I guess the answer, maximize the stuff that's working, ask yourself if you're going to get where you want to go by continuing doing what you're doing. And if you're not, being willing to constantly change and test. I think entrepreneurship, I mean, for me, I haven't been in the game that long, right? It's still kind of new for me. But to me, it feels a little bit like being a scientist, where it's like you have a certain hypothesis where you're like, I think if I do this, this will work. And then you test it, and to some extent it works and to some extent it doesn't. But, this is an important point of taking action. And this is part of the answer to your question. When you take a lot of action, you get a lot of new pieces of data and you can keep correcting. So this is one of the reasons that really successful people take a lot of action. They need more data. They need to know what they should be doing. So every single time we do something, let's say we go to here, take this action. Now we got this new piece of data and we say, oh, okay, from this new piece of data, now I think I should go this way. And we go this way and we're like, okay, now that I know this, I think I should go this way. And we sort of keep correcting, but the more actions we take, the more we can keep correcting. So I would say don't stay too long in contemplative mode. Keep analyzing the data you have. Keep making sure that you're maximizing the things that are working and keep trying stuff. Again, in real estate, the good news is a lot of these methods are kind of tried and true, like we know what we should be doing. It's just a matter of getting ourselves to do them. But the more you really got a very specific way that you want your life to look, and the more it's not looking that way, the more willing you're going to be to make changes, because you're going to realize that it's too costly if you don't. Because if you have to have your life look like this and it's not looking that way, and it's guaranteed to not look like that unless you make changes, then you're going to have to make some changes.
Yeah. Thanks.
So the
Good.
price you pay if you don't would be the short answer to that.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's 10:01. I don't know if you guys have a meeting right this second. We could do like another 5 minutes or so. Because so you guys get the same amount of time as Clayton. Do you guys have maybe one more question for me, or any place you're getting stuck that I can just give you a couple final minutes here?
Let's see. Well, we're already working on just to kind of piggyback off Clayton on what he said about the working out. My husband is big on working out because he did it every day in the military. And I'm just like, oh, Lord Jesus. So he's dragging me along out here with the working out, but I have the eating part down.
I'm a junk food eater. That's the problem with me. So I work out, she eats right. So we're trying to help each other.
Trying to merge.
Yeah.
Yes. To help each other out to continue to move forward in our weight loss journey. And I just call it, because a lot of people say, oh, I'm going on a diet, or I have to, work out because I got to lose 50 pounds, whatever. I just try to look at it one day at a time, because if I look at that big goal as, oh, that's 50 pounds, that's a lot. So I just try to take it one day at a time and eat one healthy meal at a time and try to work out one day at a time. But it helps. It helps that, he's on it. He's constantly working out with no problem. It seems not to faze him at all. But for me, it's like, oh, okay, come on, get up. You got to get up. Let's get workout clothes on, get out here and get this done. Right. So I find myself a lot of times getting stuck in that area. But my daughter said something, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, about not being lazy. She had this statement that she was telling a group of people, and I thought about that, and I said, it's true. I said, in order to do what it is you want to do in life, you can't be lazy. You have to continue to work towards it. And sometimes we fall off, the wagon, or like you said, you might start 1 day a week or 3 days a week or whatever it is, but get going, get it going, and just keep looking forward. Don't look back. That's why I was asking about getting stuck in the past. A lot of people I talk to, that's one of the things that they say, well, back in the day, this and that, and I said, well, what's going on with you today?
Yeah. So, nobody cares.
Yeah. So we have to keep moving forward. So
let me ask you guys this. Do you both have written goals of exact weights you want to be by an exact day?
Yes, actually, yes. I have it. We have an app on our phone, and so it has us to plug in, where you are now, where you want to be in so many months, and then what's your goal.
Okay,
So
that's good.
we were doing good last year this time. And then a lot of stuff started happening this year. And we had to kind of shift and do some different things. And it's not working out as well. But we're still on track to get to the goal. My husband, he'll be 55 this December. So he has a goal. He said before he gets to the speed limit age, he wants to be at a certain weight. But, so I think that, we're just taking it one day at a time and keep moving forward.
But you guys are on track to meet those written goals?
I don't know.
Yes.
For me,
but it's like lately I've been 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. Just to be honest, I track my weight. I track a lot of stuff. I'm a tracker. My food log, and I even track my blood pressure, everything, man. I'm tracking. But the point is, what I've noticed is what I'm finding out, whatever is interjected or whatever is tossed in my day sometimes gets in the way of whatever I'm doing. Like being that we're on the go sometime as real estate agents, I'm eating a lot of fast food. Okay. And then when we're in, I've started to cook more. I'm not the best cook. All right. But my wife has cooked for me. We've been married 35 years. It was going on 36. She's been the dominant cooker. She's been the chef in the house. She's now wanting the chef, and it's not her fault. I get it. We raised kids. We've been all over the world in the military, blah, blah, blah. So I told her I'll do more cooking, and maybe that'll help with me eating better. But even when I cook at home, I'm still like,
you're cooking some McDonald's.
Yeah, man. I'm throwing butter in the pan, man. I'm doing stuff.
He wants
cooking some Burger King.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. So we've been struggling in that regard of trying to, at least I have. I can't say she's been struggling, but just trying to eat healthier. The workout part, I got it to a science. It's just about finding the time. If something like all of a sudden we have a listing or something comes up, then we have to, because I like to work out in the morning. I like to get it first day. I'm a routine type person. Like, do you need to do those tough things like in the beginning, because it's going to determine the rest of your day. If you work out early in the morning first, everything after, that state of being is going to be at a higher level. It's going to show, your body's going to tell it. And after a while, if you do it in every morning, like just be consistent, you'll see the changes in your mood. You'll see the changes in your motivation. You'll see all of the different changes. So when we don't do it in the morning, we don't do it every morning. Sometimes we do it in the afternoon. Sometimes we do it in the evening. I'm already in my mind like, oh God, we're not a 10, man. Like if I'm sluggish. I'm not my best self. Same thing with prayer for me, and same thing with just reading the word of God. Just get into it. I have a routine.
Yes, and he doesn't like his routine changed. So
so there you go.
We're trying to learn how to balance
all of that. Yeah, it's tough.
So
I mean, I think you don't have to be perfect, right? Like, I don't think you're a bad person if you have fast food once in a while, or like the cookies from Subway once in a while, right? You're trying to eat fresh, and then you're like, damn, do I get the cookies? Do I not get the cookies? That's always a battle, especially because cookies are so good.
Chips or baked chips.
Yeah. But I don't know. So sort of 2 thoughts on that, I guess. One, I mean, it sounds like you guys' clarity is pretty good. Like, the weight you want to be, when you want to be it by, you're weighing yourself. You're like, it sounds like you're doing that stuff well, which is awesome. I was thinking that might be the first reason that things are being tricky, because you might not have that kind of clarity. If you do, I don't know, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, understanding, well, what is the price you pay if you don't figure this out? There's a certain amount of energy that you need to come at life with to get the life you want. And if you're eating fast food all the time, that's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? I can tell you that, to be really simplistic, but it's also true. This is from Tony Robbins, right? He's got lots of good quotes. Obviously, he's the best in the world for what I'm doing and what he's doing. Um, it's like, we don't get our wants or the things that we should have or would like to have or whatever. We only get our standards, and that sounds overly simplistic, but it is really, really true. All of the good things that we have in our life, it's our standard to have that. And the reason it's not better is because it has not become our standard to be better. Because if it was our standard, then we would have it. Right. And so, I think a lot of things in life sort of coming down to making that conscious decision of like raising our standards of like, I'm no longer okay with things here. I'm not okay looking like this. I'm not okay feeling like this. I'm not okay being like this. And you're making a decision, right? Or dissatisfaction rises and you're like, screw this. I'm tired of this. I'm making a decision to go here instead. And a standard means that you have to have this, and anything that's less than that is not okay. And you're going to keep going till you get this, and you're not going to be okay with anything that's not that. So, it needs to be your standard, like anything. If having a certain body type or a certain amount of strength or whatever is just something to be nice to have, everybody feels it'd be nice to have it, but those are not the people that get it. The people that get it are like, no, this has to be that way. Right? If you have to make 100 grand, you'll make it. If you have to make 30 grand, you'll make it. You have to have a certain elite level body, you'll have it. If you don't have to, you won't. A lot of things in life are like that, where when you really, really get to that place where you're so fed up with everything that's not that, and you're just like, I'm not going to be okay with anything but this, period, then that tends to be when that really changes. So, maybe taking the opportunity of this call to kind of be an excuse to be like, you know what? Maybe we really haven't been making this our standard. Maybe we've been making this something that it would be nice if we did. Oh, it'd be nice if we were all slim and trim and sexy and strong, and that would be cool. But maybe going from that would be cool to like, you know what? I think I'm actually just gonna do this now. Like, this is just gonna be my standard now. I'm gonna get back to like a strong, powerful, beautiful body, whatever. Because that's who I am, and that's how this shit is gonna go. That's how my life is gonna go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh
That
yeah.
makes sense of like it nice to be that way versus like, no, this is how this has to go.
Oh
It's like
yeah.
it's different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah. I think that's it. We haven't made it our standard yet. I think that's the deal. Yeah.
yeah.
So that's cool.
So you can use this as a good excuse to make it your standard. You can get off the call and be like, you know what? I'm not gonna be like this anymore. And the good news is that we can do that anytime.
Yeah.
We can change the direction we're going at any time, which is pretty exciting. And something like this, it's a good opportunity to be able to be like, hey, we just did this call. Maybe we can use this call to raise our standards in this thing. Maybe you can use this call to start writing more. Use this as an excuse to pivot and go some different directions, to make your standards different than they were an hour ago. So yeah, so that's probably a good timing. Any closing thoughts or anything like that from you guys? Was this helpful?
Oh yeah.
It was helpful. Thank you so much for having us. And like you said, it's not good being stuck. You got to move forward. You have to continue to do what you need to do in life. And so it's time to pivot in some other things.
Yeah, definitely. And all this stuff's a work in progress. This is all a lifetime journey of getting better at all these things. But I think the idea of raising the standards is a really powerful one. That the idea that at any moment we can do that if our dissatisfaction's high enough, if we're really tired enough with things a certain way, that's a decision we can make at any time, and that's a powerful thing. So, cool. All right, guys. Well, I will let you get to the rest of your day. I know you got lots of reading and working out and lead generating and all types of writing books, all types of exciting things to do. But it's really a pleasure to see you guys again and have you on. And of course, I'm happy to speak with any of you guys more if you'd like to learn more about coaching. I'm happy to learn more and see if there's a way I might be able to help. But I'm really grateful for the time with you guys today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.
You're
Thank
welcome,
you.
guys. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.